And apparently we're up. Hey, it's 1 PM here in sunny Wales, and I mean that entirely ironically. And we are on. Welcome to my intrepid crew. Not everybody is here. Mr. Powell, unfortunately, is working today, as will happen occasionally, so our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sott, will not be with us in person this week, perhaps next time. We also have our First Officer, Baruva, might be a little late, so we'll expect Obie's character, Baruva, to be along shortly. Nevertheless, we have Chief Engineer Lily Tavish, as usual, played by Dave. We have Chief Science Officer Lieutenant Neshlel Blasch Gerkow, which I hope I pronounced that right. Connie can tell me. And we also have Lieutenant Garrow Lisi, our Chief Security Officer and Tactical Officer, played by Chris.
Hello.
The only Chris we have tonight. Our non-player chief characters are, of course, Lieutenant Commander Lian Zhang, who is the Helm Officer. Like I said, non-player character, so she basically gets to be relegated to whoever wants to play her at the time. And we have Captain Sobek, who is the guy in charge here. Again, a non-player character, mostly played by myself, but also yours to dictate how you want him to act, if at all. So, just so that's clear, just because Captain Sobek and Lieutenant Commander Lian Zhang are not necessarily player characters, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are not still yours to come at to dictate how they act. This is your game, these are your characters, including the ones you don't actively control yourself. So, with all that said, is everybody signed on to Foundry?
Yep.
Nice. And everybody who wants to has got Sirenscape playing for them in the background?
Yep.
Awesome. We also have a bit of engine rumble going on. I can turn that off in about nowish, actually, because we are going to take a couple of moments, some very brief moments, and we're going to play our introductory video. Back in a few seconds. And here we are again. And now you get to see my face, my pretty face. Thank you guys for tuning in, if you're tuning in. And of course, as ever, thanks to my intrepid crew for being with us today. Let's just put some background picture on again. So yes, today we have a new member of our crew, and we'll be introducing them quickly enough. Excuse me. Like I said, Obie expects to be along at some point, so we will have our first officer. So, before we get started, I just want to bring it up to folks' attention. This is something I was going to bring up last time, but I'll bring it up now just to make sure that I've done it. I mentioned last week that you guys, or sorry, the week before, that you have a claim that you can earn depending on how you acted, which has an impact on your career as a Starfleet officer. And you also earn milestones, which are ways of charting your character's personal progress and growth. I don't expect folks to get automatically on board with it as yet. These things can sometimes take a while to learn, especially since some of us are dipping into this for the first time. Mark. And some of us are only dipping into this for the second or third time, so you know, we're gonna build up our familiarity with everything to do with Star Trek Adventures and its rule set by degrees, so we'll get used to it over time. The rest of you guys will be happy to learn that our new Chief Operations Officer has a very definite advantage. Being a denobulan, has the parent figure talent, which will allow, whenever when the ops character is assisting anybody, or being assisted by anybody, they have the possibility of ignoring the first complication, which with this group's record so far is a necessary thing. You guys previously have displayed an uncanny knack for generating lots of complications, which keeps things very interesting. But as such, can be a bit of an issue sometimes, things going wrong. So, I've just noticed that my momentum and threat counter has disappeared, so here we are, I've reloaded, I'm back again. So before we get totally started, is there anything anybody wants to bring up? Any questions to ask? Any things to ask about what happened last time? Anything at all? Any things you can't remember that you feel like you should be reminded of?
I would say I don't remember our threat being that high. Did we really use everything?
Right, so threat. As the GM, I tend to get 2 threat per person, per player actively engaged in the game at the moment. And for the moment, there are indeed 1, 2, 3, 4 of you with the possibility of a 5th coming along soon, which means I get 10 threat. I start with 10 threat. In a similar fashion to how you use momentum, I use threat to make life more interesting for you. So, if you see me spending threat, then that means I'm probably going to make things complicated in some fashion or other. Or I'm trying to tip the balance in some interesting way. But, yeah, if you don't remember being that much threat before, that's cool. That means that last time I used some of my actual threat pool. Doesn't always happen. But then those Romulans that you faced off against were, not the best Romulans. Apparently your training is a lot better than theirs. But there we go.
Don't face off against me, Neshlel.
Well, indeed. The last thing they expected was to be charged by a Tellarite. Which, considering Tellarites, they really should have factored into things, but there we go.
Remind me not to mess with beta rifles.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm still...
You remember that incident so well. You actually brought it over to one of our other games.
I did, yes.
So, if no one's got anything else to add, then I will take us in a moment to another part of the ship. Before I do, I am going to read this little introduction. Captain's Log, Stardate 48233.8. We have been given our new assignment by Fleet Ops, and I will be briefing my senior staff within the hour. First, however, we are diverting to Starbase 4 in order to take on our new operations officer. So, I am going to take us to the transporter room. And just in time, too, we get an Obie. Marvellous. That's what I call timing. Just give him a little moment to set himself up. How you doing, Obie? You with us?
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you very much for making it. You are just in time, so I'm just going to give Obie a couple of moments to sign into everything that we've got going on. Chris, you just said hello. Can you still hear us?
Yep. Hello. Yep.
Excellent. Yep, we can hear you too. That's awesome. Of everybody's.
Like another game I do where like connection drop like.
You kind of fizzled out at the end there, but I caught most of that. So yes, your connection is rather infamous. Alrighty. Obie, you signed in. Excellent. I am going to take us to the transporter room. So, we find ourselves with Captain Sobek and Commander Baruva entering onto the transporter room with a generic transporter operative behind the console. Captain Sobek gives them a nod, at which point we get... Okay, that's working a little better, there we are. As we get beamed on board, Lieutenant Pleasc. Oh, I've just lost... There he is. Commander Baruva. Lieutenant Pleasc, welcome aboard the USS Combs. I am Captain Sobek, and this is my first officer, Commander Baruva. Now, what folks will notice about Lieutenant Pleasc is that he is a bald denobulan. At least at present. And the moment Lieutenant Pleasc beams in, a small device detaches itself from his shoulder, floats around and goes towards Commander Baruva. It just hovers there and runs a little light up and down Baruva, which then signals a little flashing light to go to green, at which point this little device then hovers over towards Captain Sobek, gives him a little scan up and down, flashes green, moves over to the transporter operative, does the same thing, and then floats back to Lieutenant Pleasc's shoulder, just kind of hovering there over next to him. Lieutenant Pleasc, says Captain Sobek. That device is non-standard issue, I do believe.
It is. This is an experimental bioscanner that I've developed.
Indeed.
I like to keep track of what's going on around me.
I see. I will ask you when you are free of our mission briefing to report to the quartermaster in order to have it logged with the ship's complement of devices.
Yes, sir.
Very well. I am sorry there will be no time for your full orientation. The transporter chief here will see that your belongings are taken to your new quarters. If you would do well with following the commander and myself to the briefing room. At which point, Captain Sobek starts heading towards the door. So, Mark, if you want to be able to move your own token, all you got to do is click and hold on your token and then drag it to where you want to go.
I seem to just be selecting everyone, apparently.
Yeah, remember our little trick? If you select everybody, you can deselect by choosing. There you go. So, everybody is filing out of the... Yep, go on.
As we file out, I'll wait for the captain to go on ahead a little bit, and I'll ask the lieutenant if my bio's scanned correctly.
As far as Pleasc is aware, as long as your little helper flashes green, green means fine.
Green means good. Good. I'll take note of that. Welcome aboard, Lieutenant.
Thank you very much.
All right then. So, yes, heading down through the corridors. I take it everybody here has seen Star Trek Voyager, so everybody is at least reasonably aware of what the interior of an Intrepid class looks like. We've got deck one. So just because, for the moment, actually, pardon me, we are heading to deck one because welcome to the bridge. So, this is the ops station, where Lieutenant Pleasc will be stationed from here on in. Like I have noted previously, but for the sake of those who are new and those who don't remember, I will reiterate. This is a temporary station that can be set up for anybody. We use it for Chris Powell's character, Dr. Sott, because it's useful if we ask the Doctor to do something, or for anyone to do anything. It's useful to have your character and your character sheet, therefore, within easy reach. So we put you all on the bridge, even if your character is not necessarily actively on the bridge at that time. Likewise, the same goes for our chief engineer, Lily Tavish. The engineering control station on the bridge is at the back of the back section of the bridge, which to signify that if Tavish were on the bridge, that would be where she would stand. And again, it's for Dave's ease of use that if we need the chief engineer to do something, then Dave's character is within easy reach. Now, because we have established previously that there was a comm officer, I have brought on a new comm officer. This is a supporting character, so we can knock one off of the list. Like all supporting characters, the supporting character is not assigned to any one player. This supporting character is there for any of you to use as and when you need to. Ensign Ravalon. Ravalon is an Ephrodsian, and therefore they are known as being quite charismatic. For those of you who aren't familiar with what an Ephrodsian is, everybody has seen Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, I hope?
Yep.
Excellent.
Some time ago, yes, but don't ask me to poke any facts about it.
Yeah, that's fine. All I'm saying here is that the first ship that comes across the alien probe in Star Trek IV, one of the officers on there had long white hair and kind of a beard with long whiskers. That was an Ephrodsian. So the males all tend to have this long white hair, and they sport almost the Chinese dragon beards, almost as a cultural thing. So that's an Ephrodsian for you. So, as usual, if you want to move your characters, you can. The captain is leading the way to the main conference room. So, feel free to follow the captain. So grab your characters, drag them over, and let's file into the briefing room. So, sit where you think your guys would sit. The chairs don't line up perfectly with the squares set aside for where your characters can land, so don't worry too much about being askew. I'll just sit here and happily twitch while my OCD goes nuts. Due to space, we'll leave Lieutenant Commander Lian Zhang out there, and Dr. Sott will be there in spirit, but not actively there with us at the current moment in time. And yes, if you really feel the need to do the Riker maneuver when you sit, then feel free to do the Riker maneuver in order to proclaim dominance over that chair. Just, don't do something like licking it or rubbing your glands up against it to establish that's your seat from now. Where am I going with this? I don't know. Somebody stop me. Once again, I give people permission to sound the tangent klaxon if I go off on a long tangent and it doesn't look like I'm coming back. Nevertheless, we file into the main briefing room, the conference room on board Deck 1. The captain, being at the head, picks up a data pad and starts pressing in commands, at which point the view screen, which should be a hologrammatical display in the center of the center of the table, displays a screed of data. And the captain starts the briefing. A Federation watch station has detected a pre-Federation distress signal emerging from the Romaldi-Tamnor system. The distress beacon carries identifier signets with it that seem to suggest that it is from pre-Federation times, and the prefix code appears to match that of the NX Atlantis, an NX-class vessel of human design that was assumed lost 210 years ago during the Earth-Romulan conflict. The automated distress beacon is apparently just that. There is no active communication, and the signal itself appears to be authentic. Fleet Ops are designated that the USS Combs be sent to investigate. I would have your thoughts on this matter. Would anyone like to volunteer thoughts?
What do we know of the...
What kind of...
Okay, hold on. Obie, Dave started. Dave can go.
What do we know of the area the signal came from?
Okay. And Obie, what were you going to ask?
What he's going to ask what kind of telemetry we've received from it.
Okay, cool. The captain responds to Lieutenant Tavish's request first. Long-range sensors of the area have detected what appears to be an unstable subspace breach within the system. As far as telemetry goes, the signal appears to be originating from an M-class planet, which appears to be orbiting this subspace distortion. Any other thoughts?
Can we safely... What type of atmosphere does the planet have?
All indications thus far seem to suggest it is an M-class hospitable planet. Although, the subspace distortions given off by the anomaly in the system are preventing us from gaining any detailed scans. We will therefore have to see what we find when we arrive in system.
May I?
You may.
Sorry, may I? You mentioned an Earth-Romulan conflict. Has there been any recent Romulan activity in that sector?
According to Fleet Intelligence, there has been no reported Romulan activity in that sector for some time. The Romaldi-Tamnor system is very firmly within Federation space. The Earth-Romulan conflict happened some 210 years ago, before the establishment of the United Federation of Planets. I take it there are no further questions. No, go on, Lieutenant Tavish.
So basically, what Fleet Command want is to go investigate and see what's exactly happening there, and bring back any survivors if there is any.
Precisely. Now, obviously...
What do you need to mention? Oh, sorry, Captain.
No, voice your concerns, Lieutenant.
But what do you need from engineering, seeing as there is some, as you put it, some anomalies in the system?
Evidently, we do not have knowledge of what kind of interference we will face when we reach the neighborhood of the anomaly. Therefore, we will be needing engineering to stand by for any and all eventualities. We will be looking at everything from subspace sensor interference to potential gravimetric distortions. Engineering's onus, the onus on engineering will be keeping us as stable for as long as possible.
Yes, Captain.
Obviously, Lieutenant Gerkow, your responsibility will be in getting us as detailed a sensor scan of the area as soon as we are within system. You will more than likely have to compensate for the interference given off by the anomaly.
Captain.
Lieutenant Pleasc, you will have very limited time within which to familiarize yourself with the onboard systems of the Combs. I would therefore advise that you become a quick study. The probability of power distribution being a priority during our time in orbit of a system with an active subspace anomaly will mean that you will have to keep a very close eye on ship systems. Likewise,
Yes,
Lieutenant Garrow, you voice concern about whether or not there may be Romulan activity in the area. There should not be, but I will voice a personal concern that I have had when I was given this assignment. It is entirely possible that we are being led into a trap. Ferengi and Orion pirates previously have been known to engage in subterfuge of this variety in order to try and see if they can lure Starfleet ships or other curious individuals into such a trap in order that they can then perform a boarding action or other acts of piracy. It is entirely possible that somebody is playing upon our natural curiosity as to this historical anomaly making itself present to draw in the curious. We are, in this case, the curious. Therefore, I will expect a certain amount of security-mindedness in our approach.
I shall shore up the security on board, sir.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Commander Baruva, if we are indeed, as it seems, responding to a hail from the past, there is every possibility we may actually encounter those from a distant time period. In which case, I will need you to brush up on the protocols for temporal incursions. There is every possibility that we may indeed find survivors from a distant time period. In that case, all departments will have to be given specific directives in regards to how to proceed if we make contact with individuals from a distant time. Obviously, Dr. Sott and his medical team will also be needing to be put on alert and given full access to these temporal protocols. It is probably not advisory that we indicate to any individuals that we come across that they are indeed in the 24th century, at least not until we can ascertain whether or not they are here permanently, or if there is a chance we can send them back to their proper timeline, if, of course, that appears to be the case. Questions?
Hi, Captain. I'll put together a PowerPoint.
Thank you, Commander. Any further questions?
One more, Captain.
Of course.
Have long-range scans picked up any ships, or where the nearest known ship is to this area, or the anomaly?
It is
It
is an infrequently traveled space lane, and there are no Federation colonies established in this actual system. Therefore, we would be the only ship within a parsec.
Thank you, Captain.
Very good. Any further questions? Then I will ask you to attend to your stations. You each have your departments to brief and preparations to make. Assume your stations, if you please.
As we're leaving, I'll tell Lieutenant Tavish that I'm assigning Ensign Bright Future to her department to help pick up the extra work.
Ensign Bright Future. Okay. That's interesting. Who do we want Ensign Bright Future to be, then? Besides being Ensign Bright Future.
He needs to have a red shirt.
So we're talking security, yes?
No, what's the... He'd be like a floater. So I don't know if that would be...
Go on.
Command or operations, one of the two.
So operations will be the gold shirts, so they're responsible for ship operations, engineering,
Yeah,
and security.
I would think that would make sense.
Gold shirt. Well, this gives us a unique opportunity here to create another supporting character if we should so want. So, let's give it a good old look. I have a list of generic supporting characters going on here. So we're talking about... are we talking about a security officer here, or are we talking about an engineer or some such? A junior engineer?
Security.
Security.
Yeah. His name is Bright Future, so that he doesn't need to be shot at.
If we give them a name, that means they should survive. That's good. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly draw everybody's attention to the ship's character sheet, because the ship does appear to be a character in its own right. So, Mark, to allow you to find the ship's character sheet in case we need you to get there later on. You remember me talking about the chat column on the right?
Yes.
Currently it should be showing chat messages. If you go 1, 2, 3 over, it should be actors.
Yep.
If you can correct that, you should hopefully at some point down the bottom see a folder that says USS Combs crew and ships.
Uh-huh.
And there's a subfolder that says ships.
Ships. Yep.
So we should see Type 6A shuttlecraft, Type 9 shuttlecraft, and the USS Combs. If you click on the USS Combs, you get the ship's character sheet.
Ah.
Now, underneath the image for the ship in the center of the character sheet, you should see there's the power grid. Underneath that, you've got crew support, and this is the number of named support characters that we have created for this crew that can make regular appearances, maybe, if they don't get deaded within one episode. So, as it happens, Captain Sobek has got a talent called, I think it's teacher, or is it supervisor? It's supervisor. The supervisor talent allows us to have one extra crew support member beyond the limit of the ship itself. And that was what I used to bring in our comms officer, Ensign Ravalon. So if we want to make another support character that anybody can use, like Lieutenant Bright Future, then we take off 1 point of crew support, and we're bringing in a new one. Now, we already have a generic security officer here for our use. Do we want to keep them as human, or do we want to have a little bit of fun and roll on the species table and see what it turns up as? Generate a random crew member's species. What do we think, folks?
Yeah, random.
Yeah, mine's always random.
Seeing as Obie was the one who created the idea of Lieutenant Bright Future, why don't we ask Obie to do the honours? So, do you remember where to find rollable tables?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
So, on the top right-hand column, on the chat column where we had actors, 1, 2, 3 across should be rollable tables. 3 to the right from actors should be rollable tables if you hover across it. Can you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Cool. If you click that, there should be a folder that says Life Path Tables. Open that.
Yes.
Right, 1, 2, 3, 4th one down should be Life Path Species Next Generation Series. If you click on that, it should open a little window for you with a list of species. And at the bottom, it should have a big old button that says Roll. And if you'd like to do the honors and press the Roll button so we can see which species we randomly generate. As long as I've got you, or have I gone? Oh, Edosian. Interesting. Now, for ease of reference, I'm going to go to the only Star Trek reference guide that anybody needs, and we're going to go to Memory Alpha. For those who haven't been to Memory Alpha before, I will send you the link in the Discord now, so you can have a look for yourselves. The Edosians are the guys with 3 arms and 3 legs. So this is interesting for a security character. So, Lieutenant... I like Bright Future as a name. We're keeping Bright Future, even if it's not an Edosian name. It's an Edosian name now. So, let's...
It's probably a nickname that we've given him behind his back.
He's got such a bright future. He won't totally get killed. Let's see. Where am I looking? I am looking for Mr. Minoko. Ooh, I can't find Mr. Minoko. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. I know I already have an image of an Edosian in here somewhere, so I am going to try and find them as quickly as I can. And while I do, I'm just going to illustrate that again. This is one of my favorite bits, especially in the early days, because this is where you guys make your ship and your crew your unique thing that totally belongs to you. None of the others can have this. It's all yours. Especially when you come up with guys like this on the fly. Let's see. There is an Edosian in my gigantic list of images somewhere. Interestingly enough, my other Star Trek group, the Edosian on their ship is the bartender. So they got a bartender with 3 arms, so he can whip up cocktails really quickly. Aha! Which one's this? I can bring his token out here. So there's a huge Edosian face just appeared. Pay it no mind. It's that. Okie dokie. Nice. So now I've got the link. Let me get rid of that. Ooh, I've just realized something else I haven't done. I've got to actually call this token Lieutenant Bright Future. How well this poor fellow takes to his assigned nickname becomes a matter for you guys to figure out. Does he suffer it? Is he more than happy with it? That's up to you. But he's got the proper shirt on, so there we go. Lieutenant Bright Future. Hand-to-hand combat. Now, because he's an Afrosian, do I change that to hand-to-hand-to-hand combat?
Yes.
Let me see, are there any...
I think that makes the most sense.
Character talents, that's just fine. Species talents, Edosian. Do Edosians have any special talents due to their... They can compartmentalize their thoughts, operating each arm completely independent of the other. Wow! Welcome to your species task. Lieutenant Bright Future. So, yeah, Edosians. Let's just give ourselves a quick... tripedal species with 3 arms and 3 legs. While not a member of the Federation, the Edosians have a long-standing loose alliance with the Federation, and this one apparently decided to become a member of Starfleet. Since earliest contact, it is rare, though not unknown, for Eidosians to serve in Starfleet. Eidosian culture tends towards inner reflection and a meticulousness with historical records. Genealogy has a much larger focus than in many other cultures, which is something Lieutenant Brightfuture and Lieutenant Pleasc will have in common. Pleasc being a denobulant. Eidosians are able to trace their individual family lines back through thousands of years. Being a race that lives longer than even Vulcans, an Eidosian may spend decades focused on a particular area of study before moving on to a new interest. Interest to exobiologists with practice, an Eidosian becomes capable of allocating sections of their brain to each arm, operating independently with nearly full focus and capability. Wow! That's cool. Let's hope Bright Future sticks around. So Bright Future was being allocated to Lieutenant Tavish for the moment, yes?
Yes.
Cool. All right then. So the Chief has
Lieutenant
Go on.
Lieutenant Tavish will go to the first officer. Why am I being assigned a security officer?
Oh, he's we would know that he's also trained in engineering. He's got some engineering stuff.
Okay, what we can do
So
there.
he can help out with like certain tasks.
So what we can do there is we assume that being a generic security officer at first, Bright Future has got focuses on hand phasers, hand-to-hand combat, and security protocols. So how about we swap one of those out to be something useful to the chief engineer? Let's go with security protocol. What should we swap that out to be? Something useful but not specific to engineering. Any thoughts, Dave, on what would be useful?
What focuses?
Yeah, for this, for Bright Future's focus. Something that might be useful that you guys don't, that you don't have right now. Shields.
Something to do with shields, because that is something I do not have.
All right, that's good. That'll do. Nice. You are moving into an area where there's going to be potential for subspace distortion, therefore having a security officer who has knowledge of shields is probably going to be very handy. So good, I like how that's turned out. Nice!
Tavish will tell Bright Future, disobey me in engineering and you get the hyperspanner at your face.
Bright Future just nods. I am well aware
Good.
of your reputation, Lieutenant. Have no fear.
Good.
So, just to be clear, just like the captain, just like the comms officer, just like the helm officer, Lieutenant Bright Future is a supporting character and therefore everybody's to use if and when the situation comes around. Alright, so, with that in mind, we set course for the Ramaldi Tamnor system. Alright, so this gives Lieutenant Pleasc a little bit of time to familiarize himself with the operations. Now, luckily for Lieutenant Pleasc, the Intrepid class is one of the top-of-the-line ships in Starfleet at the moment, so it has got a lot better computer response times than Pleasc is used to. So this is very much a case of, alright, pull in command for power distribution, and it's there. So it's like, very nice. So, yes, Pleasc, for all his training, now finally gets to use something that has got quite an impressive amount of response time to it. And this is at the point where, not long after Lieutenant Pleasc actually sits down at his station of ops on the bridge, then everybody else who wasn't there before notices this tiny little I'm going to go with slightly fish-shaped. Little, unless you had something else in mind, Mark.
I like the idea of fish-shaped scanner.
It just kind of lifts off of his shoulder and starts drifting around. And first it drifts over to the helm officer, Commander Zhang, gives her the scan. And it flips between red for a second, then green. Holds on green. And then it just moves on to your comm officer. Goes up to Lieutenant Gerkow, gives her a scan, flicks green. Moves across to Lieutenant Garrow, who's trying his best to pay attention to the tactical console, and he gets this little fishy hovering in front of him and gives him a scan up and down. How does Garrow respond to this little device just whirring in front of him, Chris?
A little bemusement, but ultimately trying to. I'd probably say, you have to do that now.
All right then. So the little device kind of gives a flicker of a red light, and it holds on that red light for a little time before then drifting back to Pleasc, and it then gives Pleasc a notice that there are increased stress levels coming off of Lieutenant Garrow.
I want to just reassure Lieutenant Garrow. No need to be alarmed. It is a scanner, just to make sure that we're all safe and not carrying any unknown biological organisms or infectious diseases.
How does everyone else feel about the fact that their cleanliness is being brought into question?
I'm not on the bridge, so I don't really care.
I'm not there, I don't have to worry. I'm going to take the silence as tolerance for the time being. Okie dokie. Pleasc, your tiny little device wants to know if it has permission to access the comm system in order to notify sickbay that Lieutenant Garrow needs his needs to be de-stressed.
At this point, because we've not encountered anything, I don't want I don't want to inform Medbay of anything yet, as we've not picked up anything other than slightly enhanced stress levels.
I forget the name of the actual chemical or hormone. I think it's cortisols. If somebody can correct me on that for stress. I'm gonna go with cortisol, but I'm gonna.
Yeah, I think so.
Sounds right, but I don't know.
Steroid hormone that regulates a wide range of vital processes. See, who says that role-playing games can't be educational? And yes, it is a very important role in helping the body respond to stress. There we are. So, enhanced cortisol levels in Lieutenant Garrow. Alrighty then. You finally come into the Romaldi Tamnor system, if I can just find where we come out of exit warp. There we are. So I'll bring you briefly to the Romaldi Tamnor system. So, you have an M-class planet with some very interesting topology.
It's saying I don't have a token.
Can you see anything? Can you see the...
I can't see anything now. I can see the outline of the combs, but that's it.
I see.
Yeah, I can just see the infinite blackness of space.
Okay. Give me just a moment then. Let me see if I can alleviate that. I thought I had this done. So, let me do it through the ship. Can I have the access to the ship, please? I was using the wrong thing. Right, the ship has no sight, therefore now can you see?
There we go.
Oh.
Yep, well.
Okay. So, the planet below you shows a lot of crisscrossing signs of volcanic activity, but of course, the thing that draws your attention the most is the big, wide hole in space, not far from where you're currently at. Now, at this point, the ship itself gives a little bit of a shake. So, in true Star Trek fashion, I would like you all to join me in whatever way you can, either by shaking your mouse cursor or just doing it in person. Do me the Star Trek shake. Thank you. And I'm going to bring us back to the bridge. As Lieutenant Gerkow gets readings that there are gravitational waves being given off by the anomaly at present. Nothing dangerous at this present moment in time, but the inertial dampeners on the ship are probably going to need to be given a bit of an extra boost in order to compensate for this essentially turbulence. But whilst you're in orbit of the planet, you're not close enough to the anomaly for it to be a problem. So, first things first, what would you like to do? Now that you're in orbit
Scan
of
the anomaly.
Scan the anomaly. What were you about to say, Connie?
Yeah, scan the anomaly, check that it's stable.
Okie. So, let me see. Can I get our Chief Science Officer, with help from anybody who wants to, but also with help from the ship? So, this might be a good opportunity for Lieutenant Pleasc to get involved with a bit of sensor doing.
Yes, because parental figure talent.
Yes,
might be
indeed.
Very good help.
Now, you don't have any focuses to do with sensors exactly. So,
triage, which
yes,
I can call
but
upon if we can.
that won't really apply right now, but for the moment. Just to introduce Mark to how we do things, we will let you do that. Obie, if you can be the ship for me as well. So, you know where to find the ship's character sheet. So, was everybody moving then, or was it my imagination?
Nope, that was me by accident.
Okay. So, when you assist somebody with their roll, you only roll 1 dice rather than 2, because you're not the one who's the head, you're assisting with it. So, what I will be asking for is a reason and science task from both Pleasc and Gerkow. So, on your character sheet, Mark, if you can bring that up, if you can check the box next to the reason attribute, if you know what I'm talking about, yep, and check the box next to the science discipline. Underneath disciplines, you've got a big yellow button that says perform task. When you press that, it should bring up another window.
Yep.
Okay. Now, it's got boxes, check boxes and stuff for you to use. For the moment, don't worry about that. We're not doing that. At the very bottom, you've got number of dice in pool, and it's kind of a slider. It's currently on 2. I'd like you to slide it down to 1, because you're only using 1 dice.
Cool.
And then press the roll dice big yellow button, and that will be you assisting. Cool. So 0 successes, but no complications, so that's fine. Obie, if you can be the ship, rolling me 1 dice, but the ship is using sensors and science. Now, because you guys have got advanced sensor suites, the difficulty to scan goes down from 1 to 0. So, it helps being in a top-of-the-line ship. So, Obie, if you can give me that roll, please. Just one dice, sensors and science. Excellent. So that's a 13. So one success from the ship. It being a science vessel, it's got a better chance of succeeding, so that's not bad at all. So now we come to Connie as your Chief Science Officer, and on sensors, if you can give me the reason and science 2 dice, please. Again, none of your focuses apply, but you don't need that many successes because you have got advanced sensor suites at your disposal. 2 dice, and we get 1 success. So, because I said the difficulty was 0, thanks to your advanced sensor suites, the 2 successes you scored were over and above what was necessary, so those go into your momentum pool. So you've now got 2 momentum to play with later on to aid in buying extra dice, or giving you advantages of some variety or other. Cool. So, scanning the anomaly. The anomaly is definitely emitting high levels of neutrinos, as well as tachyon and graviton waves coming off of the thing rather immensely. With those 2 successes, these readings suggest it's not just a hole in space, it's a wormhole, potentially. Now, actually, pardon me. No, that's fine. The wormhole does appear to be unstable at its terminus with fluctuating gravity readings. Now, you can, if you wish, spend 1 or more momentum to do what's called obtain information. You basically spend a point or points of momentum, and each point you spend, you can ask a direct question to me about the task you've just succeeded at, and I have to answer honestly. So, if there are any questions you want to ask to get more information about the wormhole, you can spend a point of momentum in order to obtain information. Do you wish to? What do you think, group? I'm going to take the silences. Oh, no, okay. Mark, hang on to what you were going to say. Don't lose it. Keep it. Hold on to it. Connie.
Would it be recommended to send a probe through to the wormhole and see what information we can get?
Ooh. Okay, Mark, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, what are our options other than spending momentum? Can we scan further, or even better, send a probe?
Well, as it happens, Connie's recommendation of sending a probe might net you more information. Yes. So a probe is definitely an option. In that regard, the person responsible for launching the probe would be Lieutenant Gerkow on tactical.
Okay, I will get my laptop back again.
So, I will ask Dave this time to be the ship, assisting with Lieutenant Garrow's probe launch here. So we're looking at... what would a probe be, do we think? You're basically shooting the thing out, so it's going to be weapons and science, I reckon. So, Dave, if you can roll 1 dice for the ship, and then Chris, if you can give me a control and science check to do with launching the probe.
Yep.
You roll 2 dice, please.
Okay, so perform task, yeah.
Perform task, if you please. None of your focuses really apply here, so don't worry about all of that.
Straight up, roll dice. Is it 2 dice, yeah?
However, do you want to spend a point of momentum to buy an extra dice? Especially because the ship has scored no successes.
I will do that.
Okay, so what you can do is there's a plus-minus button on either side of your momentum pool. Press the minus button to take a point of that pool away.
Oh, hang on. Sorry. Where am I?
Down on the bottom right there is threaten momentum. I mean, you can do it after you've rolled. Doesn't have to be necessarily now, but...
I'm just trying to find it.
Can you not see it? It should be down near this area where I'm pinging on the screen. Or not, it should be down in the bottom right of your screen. If it's not there, force refresh.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I can. Yeah, so I'll press minus to
There we are.
do that.
Momentum has gone down by 1. Now, rather than 2 dice, you can now roll 3.
Okay, so control.
Change the slider up to 3.
Okay, roll dice. Here we go.
Roll dice. 3 dice. One of which was a 1, which means you scored 2 successes on that one alone, and you roll the 2, which is an extra success. 3 successes on the money. Lieutenant Gerkow expertly launches the probe and manages to get it to the wormhole without it being crushed by the gravitational waves. Very nice. The probe is sending back telemetry, and what you're getting indicates there appears to be some kind of object at the center of this wormhole. Perhaps maybe even a vessel of some kind. However, the readings are fluctuating. The object appears to be there and then not there in rapid succession. Whatever it is, it appears to be at the very epicenter of the strange gravity readings and tetryon readings, and therefore might even be the source. So, with this knowledge, what would you like to do now?
Can we use the probe to relay comms to see if it is something that can communicate with us?
Interesting question. That could be something your comms officer could try. And it's probably worth it just to try and see if we can get some more momentum going. So, who hasn't had a chance to roll much yet? Pretty much everyone's had a go now, haven't they? But what I will do is that since you came up with the idea, Mark, I will allow you, and I hope you can do it, so let me just check to make sure that everyone's got access to... Yes. You should have access to your comms officer over here, so you can double-click on his character, and it should bring up his character sheet.
Yep.
Does anybody want to assist in trying to patch the comm systems through the probe? I will take that. Go on.
Is it possible for me to assist myself as Flex because of the parent figure talent?
I suppose it is. Then that would mean you would be controlling Pleasc, and we can have someone else be the comms officer in that regard.
Yeah.
Dave, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, if you wanted me to, I could help. But...
Yeah, that would be ideal. So have Tavish help as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, and the ship could probably help as well. So that's 4. So anybody else want to get in on the action? Let me think. You're gonna have
Ensign Ravalon help.
Well, he's the comm officer, so he's definitely going to have to be in charge of doing this. So yeah, let's hope so. Okay, Connie, why don't you be Ravalon? That allows Mark to be Pleasc, and we'll have Dave as Tavish, trying to help. That leaves Obie. You can be the ship again, if you please. So basically, Ensign Ravalon, being the communications officer, is going to be the one rolling 2 dice for this, because it's his bag, it's his baby. So Ravalon can roll. Let me see. We're trying to relay communications through a sensor probe. That's smacks to me of a bit of daring engineering going on here, so I'm going to say Ravalon needs to give me daring and engineering with a focus on subspace communications, but not to roll 2 dice yet, because the first thing we need to do is for Pleasc to give us daring and engineering. Now let me see, does Pleasc have anything? Not really, no focuses yet. But Pleasc can still assist with parent figure, so Pleasc can roll 1 dice. I'm going to make this difficulty 2, so that's what we're looking to beat. Tavish, again, daring and engineering because you're trying to change the system. Obie, when it comes to the Combs, let's think, we're trying to patch communities. There's going to be communications and engineering, I think, is what the ship is going to need to aid with here. So, just to reiterate, 1 dice for the ship, 1 dice for Tavish, 1 dice for Pleasc, 2 dice for Ravalon. And the difficulty is 2, so we've got 1 so far. We got 2 now, so we've succeeded. So anything above this is extra gravy for the dinner. So now if we can get Pleasc, that's another success. So if we can get, I think, Connie, you were going to do Ravalon?
Yeah.
If you could give us our comms officer, please. 2 dice. Oh my god! All the successes in the world!
I don't think
so
that's ever happened before.
Well, I have had 1 instance of 2 1s rolled. Once. That was close. That was a 1 and a 2. Blimey, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7 successes. You only needed 2, you get 5. You have gone from having 1 in your momentum pool to having a full momentum pool. Thanks to that massive team effort there that went into patching communications through a through a probe. Zoinks! Alright, you have managed to establish a relatively clear communication channel through the sensor link with your probe, which at this moment in time is currently hovering somewhere within this wormhole. What do you want to do with this signal? Now that you've got it, what were you aiming to achieve with getting a communications line to the wormhole?
I'd probably say see if anyone's actually on board, or if there's anything, anyone we can actually talk to.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, a hailing frequency. see if everyone's there. Hello.
Okie dokes. Ravalon sends basically the universal greeting. And if anybody can rattle off the universal greeting from Transformers the movie, I'll be very impressed.
Weep, Grana, weep, ninny bun.
Oh, there we go. You win. I don't know what you win, but you win. Kudos. Let's say kudos. You win some kudos. Yeah, right, cool. You've managed to open up a com frequency to whatever might be in there. You're not getting a heck of a lot back, except for... I can just do this. So all you should have heard then was just random blasts of static. Which doesn't necessarily mean...
Maybe on the other end it was Action Alien just putting the microphone up to his mouth and going...
Somebody was breathing too close to the mic. Yes. Entirely possible, you don't know. But at the moment, you're not able to establish any kind of visual. There's not much intelligible information coming back over this comm line. Sadly. However, Ensign Ravalon does note that there is still the automated distress signal coming from the planet that you guys are currently in orbit around.
Let's try and open a line of communication to the ship then.
Okie dokie. Well, what Ravalon can tell you without needing any kind of roll whatsoever is that it's an automated distress beacon. In fact, it's a very old one. So it's just basically a series of beeps, essentially SOS, being broadcast into space. The only advanced side of the signal is the unique identifier of the ship it was attached to is being appended to the data stream, as it were, that's being broadcast outwards.
Scanning then the surrounding area of where the ship is, where the signal's coming from.
Alrighty then. Seeing as you have a whacking huge momentum pool at the moment... no, actually, I'm not going to let you have this for free. So if our Chief Science Officer can give us a reason and science task, somebody can be the ship who would like to be the ship assisting with this task? Or do you want to give it back to Obie as usual?
I'm the executive officer, so really, if you think about it, I am the ship.
I am the Combs. The Combs is I. So yeah, well, go on then. Obie can be the ship as per usual. You are the ship. So if you can give me a sensors and science task from the ship, please. And our science officer can give us reason and science. Whoops, I didn't mean to press that button. Which is not something you want to hear from your chief engineer either. Ooh! Right. Okay, so there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is you rolled a 1, which is 2 automatic successes, so you definitely succeeded at that task. The bad news is you also rolled a 20. So... I'm going to hold on to that complication for now. Okay. Alright, so scanning the area around the shuttle on the surface of the planet, you do detect that there is a field of debris around the planet. And the debris, it's very... is it very old though? The sensors come back with the debris has been in orbit. It's definitely Starship debris. It's been there for about 6 days, maybe. However, the debris has the energy signature on the debris has a distinct Romulan trace to it. Down on the surface of the planet, however, there is readings of a shuttle pod, and it appears to be intact, just functioning on low power, and that's what's transmitting the automated emergency beacon. The planet itself harbors no indigenous intelligent life forms of its own. It looks like to be quite tectonically active. But there is a faint human life reading near the crash site. It's difficult to get any pinpoint accuracy thanks to the subspace distortion going on from the anomaly. So, what would you like to do now?
Well, how long did it exactly take us to get from where we were to here? Did they get here first?
That's an interesting question. Let's see. It would have taken, since you came from Starbase 4, it would have taken the Combs more than 2 days to get here, definitely. What else would you like to do?
Due to the interference, it's reasonable to assume we can't use a transporter successfully for the human life form.
Well, you can't seem to lock on to the human life form on the planet. No. But, Pleasc, with your knowledge of transporters, if you could get a team down there with maybe some pattern enhancers, you might be able to get the individual back up to the ship. You would have to go down to the planet with taking pattern enhancers with you first. Or somebody would have to go down to the planet with pattern enhancers.
How big is the pod?
The pod appears to be large enough for a crew of about a pilot, a co-pilot, and an operations officer with space for maybe 4 passengers.
If we can't pinpoint where the human life sign is, exactly, can we hail the pod? Hail the shuttle pod?
Yep, you can, but all you'll get is the automated distress beacon, which is just a series of beeps. So it doesn't have a way of responding, is what I'm getting at. It's just an automated series of beeps that suggest an emergency distress.
I want to check with the chief engineer. If we make an away team to go down, we can try and rescue, as a priority, the human, but we might be able to repair the pod and possibly recover that. So I want to defer to the chief engineer about whether or not we can do that, and if it's a good idea.
The captain thinks that that's actually quite a good idea. But yes, we'll defer to the chief engineer on their thoughts.
Yeah.
Alright. So, the captain turns to his first officer. Number 1, it appears that you are assembling an away team to go down to the surface of the planet. Take whoever you think you'll need.
Very good. I'll take Lieutenant Fuss because of his knowledge of the transporters. We need to take Lieutenant Gerkow because we don't know what we're going to find down there. Lieutenant Gerkow because we don't know what we're going to find down there. And...
well, you've taken the chief engineer because...
chief engineer because we don't know what we're going to find down there.
Cool. Alrighty. Anybody else? Is that enough?
I'd like to take a bright future, but we'll leave him to cover for... Yeah.
You want to take bright future?
He needs the experience of going on away missions.
Well, exactly.
Honestly, I was thinking about taking a doctor with us.
You
Oh
can
yeah,
take
because
Dr.
we're
Sott.
leave the bright future behind, and we'll take the doctor.
Okay. Now, naturally,
there's somebody down there, and they might be hurt.
yeah. Naturally, of course, Chris isn't with us to play Dr. Sott, so for the moment, Dr. Sott will be used as a supporting character. So,
So, just checking.
Yeah.
Because we're taking our chief engineer and me, would we been better off replacing either myself or the chief engineer with Lieutenant Brightfuture, as Lieutenant Brightfuture has better combat stats, and we need someone on the ship in case we need support remotely if we're stuck on the ship.
Seeing as you're looking to do stuff with transporters, maybe it might be an idea to take Tavish, because Tavish might need to do something with the shuttle pod. Leave Pleasc behind, so that'll give Mark you the opportunity to utilize either Brightfuture and or Sott as the supporting character, while your character is otherwise on the bridge.
Yeah, he'll say that.
Yeah.
All right, everybody good with that configuration?
Yep.
So basically, Mr. Pleasc, it's going to be all down to you to beam the crew safely down to the surface. No pressure. Before you do, I will take everybody on a little jaunt to the items directory. So if you've got the chat messages up in the chat section, 1, 2, 3, 4 across is a suitcase-looking icon that when you hover over it, it says items. And you should get a load of folders, one of which in the middle should be character equipment. And you should see pattern enhancers there. Now, because of the interference, if you look, the pattern enhancer has got what's called an opportunity cost. So that means that you would pay out of your momentum pool to take such an item with you if it were not part of the away mission's parameters, basically. But because it's been established that you will need to take pattern enhancers with you in order to ensure your ability to beam back up to the ship, the opportunity cost gets waived. If you wanted to take something else a little extraneous to requirements, like, I don't know, the anti-grav sled, because you fancied checking whether or not it had good hills that you could surf down on the anti-grav sled, then that would be extraneous to requirements, and therefore you would pay the anti-grav sled's opportunity cost. So,
well, there's my idea out the window.
Now, the only reason I wasn't clever enough to come up with this surfing on an anti-grav sled idea, somebody else has come up with that in the past, and I will let them own up to it on chat if they're watching. But otherwise, so and live long and prosper to you, suitable substrate. Thanks for tuning in. Now, the pattern enhancers, you can see they are large sized, so you'll need usually 3 to create a strong triangulated area of pattern enhancer. So at least 3 people will need to take a pattern enhancer each, because they are big, bulky, unwieldy things. So designate, I mean, the chief engineer and maybe Brightfuture should take one each, so they can be dragged into your inventories, your belonging sections at the bottom right of your character sheets. So I've
done it.
You've done it, cool. I don't know, maybe Connie, I think Gerkow should maybe take the other pattern enhancer, since, you know, science needs to make sure science happens.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, if you can see where the pattern enhancer is, you can just drag it into, click, hold, and drag it into your belonging section on your character sheet, and that should say whether or not you've got it. So let's just give that a wait and see if it happens. You know what I'm talking about, yeah? You can see it? Yeah, you can see it. You got it. Nice. So it's there on your character sheet under other items. So I'm gonna... I know somebody else has done it for Brightfuture. That's awesome. So that's 3 pattern enhancers. All there. Now, are there any other bits of tech that you think you would want to take with you, now that you've got access to this wonderful list of stuff? I myself can't think of anything specifically, but, you know, you guys might, so... mean, taking the universal translator would be a bit outside, but you never know.
Field destabilizer. Ooh.
Field destabilizer if you want to, take out force fields.
We don't know what's on the pod. What could be there?
Is there anything we can take that would help us communicate better, since the signal is kind of degraded?
Ooh. Right, an emergency transponder is to do with transporters. Audio receiver is an old communications thing. Let me think. Portable items. Chronometer, cutting laser, no. Hyperspanner, no. The engineer's got one of those. Mass spectrometer, pad, phaser drill, electron microscope. What's this? Wrist torch / beacon. The wrist torch beacons might. You can, piggyback off of the beacon and send burst transmissions back to the Combs. It has potential. Again, because it suggests itself to the mission parameters, I would be willing to waive the opportunity cost for folks to take wrist torch beacon / beacons with them. That's under tools and portable items. You going for those? Yes, I see you are. Okay.
Well, I guess.
Alrighty. Anything else? I mean, the rest is protective gear and medical devices, so Dr. Sott will probably just be taking his emergency medical kit with him, so yeah, nothing much suggests itself medical equipment wise, so that should be enough. Alright then, we're going to have, unless there's one last thing anybody can think of.
I'm just going to take a wrist torch beacon thing with me as well.
Cool. So, yeah, there you go. You've got it on your character sheet. Nicely done. So, plus, who doesn't want to look cool with one of those wrist-mounted double torches? Even though it's broad daylight down on the planet. But you never know. You could end up inside of a cave or something. With obviously not polystyrene rock walls. I don't know, we're on a budget. So, this is going to be down to Lieutenant Pleasc to use his transporter's focus to get folks down to the planet. It's going to be backed up by the ship. So, Obie, if you'd like to be the ship one more time. If I remember, transporters comes from sensors and engineering, I think. So if you could do sensors and engineering for the ship. And we're going to ask for Pleasc to give us 17, so it's all down to Pleasc. This is going to be difficulty 2. So if you want to use momentum to purchase extra dice.
And we're already at the cap for momentum, aren't we? So
yes,
might be worth it unless any of the teams against that.
What do you think, folks? Spend extra momentum to make sure you get down there in one piece?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Mark, knock
And
off
I'm
1 momentum.
Yep. And I'm rolling for...
right, so you are rolling control and engineering. And when you bring up the second little window, check the box that says using focus. And remember to up the slider from 2 dice to 3.
Right. Let's roll the dice.
And here we go! Well, good news, Wiz. No complications. And luckily, you get just enough.
Ooh.
Right, so let's see what happens when they land. Let's bring folks together. Let's change the ambience a bit. And let me take off the beep-de-beep boop of... okay. On the surface. Let's bring you in. You have arrived on the surface. So, you were met with a jagged landscape where slabs of rock jut upward and limbless trees stand at unnatural angles, hanging on even as the land shifts beneath them. Fallen trees litter the uneven ground, and twisted blue-barked seedlings sprout from the carcasses. Several volcanoes smoke in the distance, filling the sky with ash. The sun is a cold yellow disk in the ash clouds. Small, furry-tailed animals, each with one red eye, scurry about, while brightly coloured beetle-like creatures the size of a human hand dart from rock crevices, their five-pronged pincers snapping. A pre-Federation shuttle pod rests nearby, its roof and sides thick with the bluish moss that seems to cover most of the floor around you, except for around the door, which has been cleared in patches as if removed by hand. So, here you are, on the surface. What would you like to do now?
I would like to scan the moss on the shuttle to see how long it's been growing on it.
Alrighty. Let me see. Okay. Can you give me, please, a control and... This is going to be a biological thing, but it's also going to be science, so... Control and science, but with your focus of botany, please, as you go in with your tricorder. And you wonder why I didn't tell you to get rid of botany. Now you know. Alright. So, Lieutenant Gerkow goes over towards the shuttle pod and starts scanning the moss. And as Gerkow gets closer, the moss seems to be giving off a kind of energy pattern, which is weird. Almost thermal. But from this distance, you don't get much more than that. The moss has covered most of the shuttle. It appears to be pretty... It appears to spread pretty quickly. What would you like to do now?
Who would be best to scan for the human life form?
Well, I suppose anybody who's got a tricorder could scan for life forms. I mean, Garrow could do it, and any one of you could do it, really.
Well, I'll have a go.
You could both try if you want, especially since, Mark, you're being Bright Future at the moment.
Yeah, I can assist.
So, both of you give me control plus security. Bright Future isn't going to have any focuses on this, so it's just going to be rolling one dice. Garrow... Yeah, Garrow's not going to add any of his focuses either, but Garrow can roll 2 dice. Control and security, if you please. No successes for Garrow. 1 success for Bright Future. So working together, it's difficult to pin anything down. It seems the volcanic activity is putting a lot of ash and stuff up in the area, and something seems to be scattering your tricorder scans a little bit. It's weird. It's like it's almost like the tricorder pulse scans go out, but then they seem to just peter out after they reach a certain distance. I am going to ask... Let me see. Who has got the best kind of... Dave, if I can ask you to access Dr. Sott and give me an insight and science check, and can I get Connie for you to do the same with Gerkow, please? Insight and science. I'm not going to tell you the difficulty, I just want to see if either of those characters notice something in the environment.
How many dice?
2 dice, please.
2 for both of us, is it?
Yes, please.
Do you want me to use any of these focuses?
Let's see. No, none of his focuses come into foci. Focuses is whatever comes into effect here. However, Connie, botany as a focus comes in for you.
Okay.
Success. 1 success. All right. Both Dr. Sott and Lieutenant Gerkow notice that as Garrow and Bright Future are scanning around looking for human life sign with their tricorders, the moss on the ground close to both Bright Future and Garrow seems to... It's like these tiny little filaments start reaching up from the moss and start wafting in the direction of Bright Future and Garrow. So make of that what you will.
Look out, Lieutenant. Mind the moss.
Mind the moss! You should have a placard that says that.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll look down and see this.
Yeah, so basically there's a lot of greenery, but most of the greenery seems to be either these dead, barely hanging on trees, or this carpet of moss. And yeah, Garrow looks down and sees that around his shoes, where he's standing on the moss, these little tiny white filaments are gradually creeping up his shoes. And as soon as Garrow notices that, everybody looks down and notices the same thing.
Okay, time to move, I think.
So basically, where there are brown patches is where it's clear of the moss. So brown patches on the ground indicate clear of moss. Okay. That's kind of weird for moss to behave that way. But there you go. What would you like to do now?
I'm just going to check the shuttle to see if it's stable.
Well, the shuttle for the most part appears to be pretty much intact. It looked like it didn't have an awesomely comfortable landing. But otherwise, it doesn't show any outward signs of too much damage. That being said, most of the exterior, except for the door by there, is covered in moss. But the door, like I noted, seems to have been cleared roughly almost by hand of moss.
Okay, I'll
So there
try
should...
and open it up.
there should be a door icon right in front of you.
Yep.
Now, obviously, it doesn't make the interesting little hissing sound that a 24th century one does. It makes more of a squealy, whiny, grinding sound as it pulled back on its hinges.
Hold on, I'll see if I've got any WD-40.
Now, you should, I hope, if you bring your character down, you should see the interior. Beep!
I do see the interior, yes.
Now, this is where I have to apologise for all these little notes like 13, 14, 12, 9, 11, 10. I couldn't find the interior of an NX shuttle pod anywhere on the internet, except for a place that do like map cutaways of the interior of Starfleet ships. So you're just going to have to picture in your mind's eye that those little numbered blobs are not there.
Before Tavish goes in, she will be like cleaning off her shoes of any moss
Yes.
before she steps in.
Okay, no problem. The interior's pretty dark. But Tavish,
Got a wrist torch.
you do indeed have a wrist torch. So using the wrist torch, you can see pretty much what you can see on the interior. There's the two operations stations, and there's the main piloting station. All the consoles are very old school. We are talking 22nd century tech.
It shouldn't be too bad.
It's, stuff from that time was pretty durable since they didn't have much in the way of shields back in those days. Which explains why this thing made a crash landing and for the most part seems to have weathered it quite well. However, for all the little flip switches and heavy depressed switches that you can flick on and push down and press up, nothing seems to have any power whatsoever.
Okay, I'm going to go to what I think is where I should be able to get some power.
Now, while that's going on with Tavish, what are the rest of you doing?
I might try and do another scan of that moss that tried to creep up my leg earlier.
Okay, so you could probably get a good bit of assistance from, or if not direction, from Gerkow for this one. So, if Garrow's gonna look like Gerkow looks like he's about to start scanning the moss, does Gerkow want to assist, or does Gerkow want to take charge and Gerkow assist? Which do you think is better? The two of you.
If I have the botany, that might be more beneficial for me to take charge.
Plus, Garrow's science discipline does not appear to be as high as Gerkow's. So, Gerkow assist and Gerkow lead?
Yep.
Cool. So both of you give me control and science. Obviously, 2 dice for Gerkow, 1 dice for Gerkow. Gerkow gets her botany focus. I'm going to make this difficulty 2, so if you want to buy momentum, extra dice with momentum, then now would be the time. So are you buying extra dice, or are you leaving it as is?
I'm going to leave mine as is.
Okay.
Same.
Same? Alright then.
Okay.
Roll away.
Rolling.
So 1 gets no successes, but 2 successes from Gerkow. Okay. So Gerkow is just there kind of nervously scanning the thing to try and see what happens, but from the distance she's at, Neshlel scans as the Moss as well, but notices that whilst Garrow has got an active tricorder going on, and I neglected to actually do the tricorder sound effect, so I'm going to do that now. Neshlel notices that whilst Garrow's actively scanning and is kind of leaning down towards the Moss in order to get a closer scan for his tricorder, these little filaments are actively extending out from the Moss and are trying to reach for the tricorder. The scans that Neshlel's getting from the analysis of the Moss suggests that this plant-based life form has adapted to feed itself by drawing energy as its primary means of sustenance. So the fact that it's green and uses photosynthesis is kind of like a minor thing. And this, to you, explains why the Moss is now so prevalent over other plant life forms on a volcanically active planet like this one appears to be at the moment. The Moss more than likely adapted to draw sustenance from drawing energy from, the heat generated from the lava and such. So it's reacting to the energy being given off by your technology, basically, and is, on instinct, is just reaching for it. However, there's also the possibility that the heat given off by a life form, such as yourselves, is also pretty attractive to it. The energy given off by your technology is probably more attractive to it than your body heat, but that's not to say that the Moss wouldn't be attracted to your body heat as well. So it's a form of basically energy devouring Moss.
Okay. So we're standing on basically muddy patches here, and well, anything that doesn't have moss on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yet it doesn't seem to. That moss doesn't seem to go anywhere near those bits.
And yet you can see filaments reaching over to where you're standing. Now this is a plant life form, so it's going to move slowly if at all, but it's active. It's actively seeking you as you're standing in those patches. So, is Neshlel voicing all of... I assume Neshlel's voicing this information to the rest of the group.
Yeah, he is absorbing this at the moment. It's like... It seems to be that the Moss is attracted to our instruments or even ourselves. To conserve our energy, I would suggest we turn off any unused devices. Turn them on airplane mode.
Nice. Tavish, from your spot inside of the shuttle pod, Tavish has found the main power and the backup power batteries completely drained. And considering what you just heard Lieutenant Gerkow state, that would make a horrible amount of sense. It seems the moss that's covered the shuttle pod has basically drained it of all energy.
Lieutenant Gerkow, would this moss show any signs of sapience?
Gerkow doesn't think so. It's just, reacting on instinct. It's just reaching for the nearest energy source.
No, sir. No, Lieutenant, it seems to be...
Alright, well, let's try to clear it off. First, get a stick. And try to clear it off with a stick. Don't touch it.
We may have to notify everyone on board the Combs as well if any of this stuff is still on us when we get back.
Yeah, I'll try to hail the ship.
Yeah, we don't want to have a pathogen incident.
We've all seen those Next Generation episodes where things get on board.
Yep.
So
Yes.
Pleasc is not currently aware of what's happening on the planet.
Not currently, but Obie did just say that Baruva was thinking about sending a communication to the ship, so now would be the time to try and get a communication signal up to the ship.
I'll get on my my comm badge and that USS Combs, this is Commander Baruva. Can you hear me?
Keydokes. We appear to be getting fear. Repeat. To awaiting. Can you hear us?
Now?
Yes,
Can you hear
Commander.
me now?
I hear you.
Very good. Make sure to set up the transporters to quarantine us from any plant life that we may accidentally bring up with us when we beam aboard.
Lieutenant Fleet, please make sure to activate the biofilters to their strongest set when you beam through back up.
Yes, that'll work. Very good. Carry on.
We shall. Okay, now, can I get Garrow and Bright Future to both give me insight and security?
Insight and security check. Okay.
Yes, please.
How many dice?
2 each.
2 each.
Right.
Ooh.
Sorry.
Okay. So, Garrow is busy trying to scrape off the moss with a stick, as everybody else is as well. But Bright Future, who is obviously able to multitask, takes a nearby stick and is busy cleaning off, trying to brush off the moss away from himself with one hand, whilst attending to a tricorder with another and looking to power it down for the moment. And that's when Bright Future notices movement from atop a small ridge. There appears to be a raggedly dressed humanoid with wild, unkempt hair, who is leveling what seems to be a crudely made weapon, looks like a bow, and is aimed pretty much in Garrow's direction.
Well, I have a spare hand.
Yes.
I'd want to,
So Bright
I'd want
Future
to
gets to
try-
react.
I want to try and stun him. I don't want to harm him, but I want to not cause a threat to the rest of the away team.
Alrighty. In which case, you want to give me a control and security check with a focus on hand phases, so remember to check for focus. And the difficulty is 2.
Cool. So rolling 2 dice.
Yes, please. See what you get. That is 2 successes on the money. So what I want you to do now is your Type 2 phaser. If you go down to Bright Future's belongings area, you'll see weapons. One is unarmed strike, then there's Type 2 phaser. When you roll over the icon for Type 2 phaser, it turns into a dice.
Ooh.
Click the dice. Nice. Nice dice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 even. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, I miscounted. So, like I've noted before, unless you tell me otherwise, I will always assume that weapons are set to stun. And I am going to use this guy's 1 point of determination to... He quickly sees Bright Future level his weapon and is going to dodge out the way. But he had to... that fouled his aim. He can't shoot an arrow at Garrow. No arrow at Garrow. I'm easily abused.
His escape was narrow.
Indeed. So, we are back to combat. So, if folks remember, the combat initiative window is the second icon on the chat column. Now, rather than having to flip back and forth to it, what you can do is right-click over the crossed swords icon, and it should give you a window that you can then reposition wherever you want it on the map, the view. Let me change the ambience to the attack of the caveman.
I'm also assuming that the rest of the away team now knows that we're...
Oh yes, everyone's now aware of what's going on. So, like I've noted before, initiative doesn't go with rolls, so ignore what I've done there. That was just to set you up with initiatives. Initiative in this goes along the lines of one of you, one of them, one of you, one of them, but there's only one of, technically, them, so we don't... There's going to be one of you that goes first, then the NPC. Unless somebody wants to expend, I think it's 2 momentum in order to... let me see. Momentum spends in order to keep the initiative. Yes, 2. So if you wanted one of you to go after the first one, rather than let this guy go after the first one of you, you can spend 2 points of momentum to keep the initiative. What I will say also is that, unlike other role-playing games, we separate the map into zones, so there are no definitive arbitrary numbers for that. So this area here, which is an elevated position, is a zone in and of itself. This area here is a zone, and that area remaining is a zone. 3 separate zones. You can cross from one zone to another with a fast movement, and on your turn you have a fast movement and a slow movement. A fast movement can be used to move, a slow movement can be used to utilize a device like a weapon, or to engage in hand-to-hand combat. Extra fast actions like retuning your phaser can be bought with momentum if you want to do more than one thing. So, as a reminder, most, if not all, phasers have got multiple modes. You can activate these modes by using a fast action to switch a phaser's mode from... what is it again? You can give it the area effect, the intense effect, so that the injuries from it are difficult to heal from. Piercing, which can go through armor, or vicious, which deals extra damage. Whoops!
Oh, sorry, that was my bad. I'm trying to open the feed.
You just wanted to roll dice, didn't you?
I don't think there's anything left of him.
So, what I can bring to your attention there is that you see that on both of those rolls you rolled effects, which are the dice with the Starfleet insignia over. Weapons of all sorts have qualities, and if you roll an effect, it can trigger one of those qualities. Like, for instance, when I mentioned if you turn a phaser over to do extra damage, the vicious quality, if you did turn your phaser to use vicious, then every effect you rolled would score an extra point of damage. On the other hand, if you wanted to use the area effect, the wide-angle beam version of a phaser, every effect you rolled would allow you to target an extra target beyond the first small group that you initially designated as your original target. So, stuff like that. However, the first thing I want to get to is who of your lot is acting first in initiative? Do you want Gerkow to go first? Do you want Bright Future to go first? Do you want Baruva to go first? Does Tavish want to go first? You know, who wants to go first? Okay, if nobody's volunteering themselves, then I will recommend that at least one of the two security officers go first. So either the chief, responding to the sudden threat.
Yeah, I was about to say, here's me he was firing at. So,
makes a certain amount of sense. Now, like I said, this would then happen, so if Gerkow goes first, it would then happen that your attacker would go next. Do you want to spend 2 momentum to keep the initiative and allow someone else of your team to go after Gerkow? Or do you want to just let it play out?
I'm probably going to let it play out.
What do the rest of you think?
I'm with them on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Alright, so Gerkow goes first, then the guy who's attacking you, who wants to go next? I mean, Bright Future makes a certain degree of sense since he's the next security officer.
Am I able to move as well as attack?
Yes.
Yeah, then I'd go next because I want to get over. Either in melee range or at least be able to sort of protect Gerkow, Lieutenant Gerkow.
Does Gerkow want to go after Bright Future?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I have Baruva and Tavish and Sott. That order kind of makes sense now in regards to who we've got. So is everybody alright with that initiative order?
Yep.
Gerkow, attacker, Bright Future, Gerkow, Baruva, Tavish, Sott. Awesome sauce. So let's start. Gerkow goes first. So like I said, you've got a quick action which you can use to either move to a zone, an adjacent zone, or to switch the setting on your weapon.
Okay. I'm going to switch. But keep it on stun.
Keep it on stun. Was there a setting you were going to aim for?
Yeah, I was going to go vicious.
Vicious. Alrighty, so no action required for that. You just tune your phase to do extra bit of oomph, which means you can now use your slow action to actually do it. So that's going to be control and security. Gerkow does have phasers as a focus, so that means you can add your focus to the effect. Difficulty 2.
Okay, here we go.
There's a 5 and a 10. Those are 3 successes. So, ooh, hey. Not a shot you can get past this time. So you earned an extra point of momentum because you got 1 success over what was needed. Now, do you want to add that point of momentum back to the momentum pool, or do you want to add an extra dice of damage to your phaser shot?
I'm going to add the extra dice.
Alright, so, as before, get to your Type 2 phaser and roll damage, and then we'll roll an extra 6-sided dice on top of it.
Hang on, sorry.
So if you want to roll damage for your phaser, open up your character sheet, find your Type 2 phaser, roll over the icon, and you've got the dice icon, press that. Okay. To roll an extra 6-sided dice, you've got the dice tray underneath the chat input box. So where you've got what appears to be a square shape, click that, then click the roll button in the bottom right. Ooh, and you even generated a success and rolled a 6. So there we are. You did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with 2 effects. Each effect adds an extra one. That's 12 in total. Holy Moses, you took him out in 1 shot.
Nice.
Stand down, everyone.
He stunned him. That was quick.
Quick, hide the body.
Right, let's see what it
He
was.
attacked us first. Well, that was the fastest round of combat I think we've ever done. So, nicely done. So, there we are. Mark, that was your first and very briefest encounter with combat in this system. So let me get rid of the zones. Don't need them anymore. So the guy just gets struck full in the chest. So after Bright Future firing to spoil the guy's aim and forcing him to duck to one side, Garrow, with his expert reflexes, draws and reconfigures his phaser and fires, catching the guy full in the chest with a stun beam, and he just collapses. He's currently up on the top of a rise. It's not terribly tall. It's just got an extra 9-10 feet worth of height over you. Somebody who could scale the various bits and bobs of rock could use it to get up to the same level as this fella. As I imagine, Dr. Sott feels quite keen about wanting to examine the man. So I'm going to make the decision that Dr. Sott is, since he's got the Hippocratic Oath, wants to have a look to see if this guy is okay. Is anybody going up there with Dr. Sott?
I'll tell the good ensign to go up there and give the doctor some hands.
Ensign, you mean Bright Future?
Yes.
Okay.
Some spare hands. I want to go there just because I've got a pattern enhancer for when we're ready to beam away, but also, yeah, just to make sure there's nothing else as a threat there.
Alright then, so folks can go up, no problem. Takes a bit of doing, but there is enough easy footholds and handholds for you guys to get up there without any problem. What you find is a bedraggled looking human male. He's wearing the tattered remnants of what was once a some kind of flight suit, but it seems to be fairly well worn. Interestingly enough, the amount of wear on his uniform and the amount of or the flight suit rather, I should say, and the amount of facial and hair growth would indicate that this guy has been here for some time. You know, his hair and beard are long and tangled in mangy knots.
Is the good doctor able to do a bit more of a scan on the individual?
Yeah, let's have a look. Scan with a medical hoojamajoo. Who would like to be... Obie, if you could be Dr. Sott for us this time.
Sure.
Let's have a reason and science task. This is going to be difficulty 2. So if you want to...
I'm looking to see...
emergency medicine will probably do.
Yeah, okay.
As a focus.
What about field medicine?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, no, I don't. I think I probably have the proper tools.
Yes, field medicine is only useful if he doesn't have the proper tools. So let's see. Doctor's orders. That's coordinating task. Bedside manner is just trying to heal him.
So,
that's fine. 2
dice, right?
Yes, please. And a good little scan with a tricorder. 2 very good results there. 4 successes. Lordy lorks. Well, that definitely gives you a full momentum pool once again. Okay. Right. This is weird. Dr. Sott reports that, to all intents and purposes, this guy shows hair growth and signs of physical isolation that would suggest he's been here for around about 6 years. Which is odd, because the debris in orbit, the Romulan debris in orbit, suggested that the Romulan debris was been here for days. But this guy, definitely human, has been here for years. His brain is showing unusual activity. And with that many successes, Dr. Sott's able to determine that the kind of activity, the kind of areas of the brain that are showing the most activity, are the kind of areas that light up when a human is under the effects of some kind of chemical compound, usually psychotropics. So like LSD or something like that.
So he's been on several different types of trips.
Or or more than likely, he's undergoing a very specific trip right now and has been for an extended period of time. Because it seems like there's a fair amount of quantity of this chemical compound in his system, which could explain his overly aggressive attitude.
Interesting, though. These psychotropics, are these native to this planet, or did he have them with him somewhere? Did he have a stash?
You got 4 successes, so I will allow this one. Because you got over and above what was needed. And you can essentially use the extra momentum point that goes over the momentum pool's maximum to ask that question. So I'll give it to you. The water source, the nearby water source, appears to be laced with that chemical compound. So it appears that with only that water to drink, he's had to subsist on this water, and it's been affecting his mind as a result.
Is there a safe way for us to take a sample of that in case we need it to treat the man?
Yep. Dr. Sott's got plenty of medical apparatuses. Answers on a postcard.
Things.
Yeah. Things, TM, with to collect samples with. But any in-depth analysis of a chemical compound will have to be done on the ship where there's more sophisticated equipment. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Tavish, you've heard a lot of a good burst of activity went on outside, but that seems to have stopped. They all appear to be crowding around this guy who's lying down on top of the nearby rock face. There's very little in the way of any power on this ship whatsoever, but you might be able to finagle a bit of power out of maybe your phaser, to use it as a temporary battery to see if you can put some power into this thing.
Okay.
Can I assist, as I've got 2 phases and 3 hands?
2 phases and 3 hands, so you've got more than enough spares. Whoever wants to go down and help Lieutenant Tavish with trying to repower the shuttle pod is welcome too.
I'm gonna advise Dr. Sott to keep our friend Vigo here sedated.
Now that you mentioned it, that token art does look a bit like Viggo Mortensen, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's Vigo! You are like the buzzing of flies to him. And if you can name that quote, I will reduce my threat spend by 1. Hey, I get to keep my threat. So, Ensign Brightfuture comes into the shuttle pod and asks Lieutenant Tavish if they can help. So,
So I guess you're going to get us to roll.
Yes, please. So this is going to be daring and engineering for Bright Future at the very least, with no focuses. But as far as Tavish goes, what did you have in mind, Dave?
So, first of all, I'm looking at like Miracle Worker.
I was thinking
but
the
it
same
says
thing.
it says it extended task.
Yeah. So
I
Miracle
don't know if
Worker is
this-
there to just do things at a higher pace, so maybe not. Where was that one about getting the things to work with the least amount of power? That's I'm giving it all she's got, isn't it? There we are. Anything that requires a power requirement. So it doesn't look like you have talents that will reduce the difficulty any. But you've certainly got expertise in power systems and whatnot. Go on.
Could I use a value at all?
You can if you really want to.
And use Mad Engineer?
Alrighty. So, yes, for Mark's sake, this is a good illustration. Tavish is using one of her values to justify the spend of a point of determination, which will buy a dice with the number 1 automatically rolled. So Tavish is reaching deep down into her reserves, her will as a mad tinkerer of all things engineering to pull out the dangerous and the seemingly improbable.
Maybe you should go down there just to make sure she doesn't rig it.
What are you trying to say about my skill? Do you want this? do you want this hyper spanner at your face?
Yeah. So if Garrow sticks his head in through the shuttle pod door to see what's going on, he might have to duck as something goes sailing past.
If Garrow wants to help, I'm all
I think
in for
Garrow is less there to help and more to supervise. Just don't make this blow up, unless Garrow wants to help, of course.
Yes, I'll, kind of supervisory role. I don't know what happened last.
Yeah. Safety protocols,
talking
Lieutenant,
about?
remember. Are you sure that wire is supposed to be
What?
crossed there, Lieutenant?
Fine, I know what I'm doing.
That's what you
I
said
have a
last.
That's
I
what you
have,
said
I have a
last.
PhD in this.
So let's see. Garrow will be assisting with insight and engineering, suggesting that what Tavish might be doing might not be entirely safe. Whereas Bright Future is definitely going to be aiding with daring and engineering, and this is definitely going to be daring and engineering on the part of Tavish. You're also spending a point of determination. So this is a pretty good lot of dice that's going in here. I am going to spend a point of momentum to up the difficulty of this, because you are trying to get 2 different systems made at 2 different points in time to cooperate. So the difficulty for this is definitely going to be a 3. If not, actually, I'll make it a 4. And I'm also going to spend an extra point of threat to up the complication range. So if you roll a 19 or a 20, something interesting happens. So,
Do you want me to
If I can
change
get-
the complicate?
yes, so both Garrow and Bright Future to roll first.
So insight,
So-
engineering.
So insight and engineering. Garrow's not using a focus.
Do we have
It's
to
not
change the
using
complication
determination.
range?
But all of you will have to change the complication range from a 1 to 2.
Okay.
And remember, Dave, you are having to check that you're using a point of determination. So if I can get Bright Future and Garrow to roll 1 dice each first. Remember to note the complication range changes from 1 to 2. That's good so far. That's good as well. You only need one more success.
I am rolling 2 dice, aren't I?
You are rolling 2 dice, and also remember to check the complication, not the complication, the determination.
Ooh.
There was a complication. Alrighty.
Yeah, anyway, something wrong,
Something happens, yes.
right.
Alright. Yeah. So, Tavish takes her own phaser, and then Bright Future comes in and volunteers his phaser. Garrow, being suspicious and remembering what happened last time Tavish tried doing on-the-fly modifications, comes in and is offering, and I use the term loosely, helpful hints as to what Tavish might consider doing instead of what she's doing, which of course annoys Tavish enough that she does actually cross a wire, which sparks, but then some power does come on. And the power keeps building, and building, and building, and then there's a massive bang and a smoke as the shuttle pod gets filled with basically of smoke as something overloads. And the majority of the power system has gone kaput. You've fried most things in there. However, the one system that doesn't explode or get damaged in any way appears to be the computer logs. Most of it is garbled rubbish. Unfortunately, the power surge damaged a great deal. That being said, you do have 1, 2, 3, 4. There appear to be 5 personal logs in the shuttle, which you can access. So you do get something out of this. I am going to show you that now. Hopefully you can all see. So a new page should have just popped up in front of you. Lieutenant Kearney's personal logs.
Yep.
Can you?
Yep.
Yep. You can confirm that you can see it, everybody.
Yep.
Awesome sauce. Give those a read. Hopefully everybody watching the stream can read this too. I have up font size for my own. That's a good point, actually. Let me make sure the font size is the one I like to have it on. It's not. Bob. The default for font size for Foundry is 5. I like to bump it up to 6 because I can't always see the tiny text. Let me know when you've finished.
So do we have access to like I don't imagine we would without being on the ship, be able to determine like when anything about the Atlantis, when it was last sent out, so we could determine how long he's been here.
That would, as you quite rightly point out, be more than likely be accessible on the ship.
Okay.
So, you could probably find that out if and when you beam back up to the ship, or you could request that that they have a look for that information now on the ship if you wish.
I think with this hungry fauna, we should probably head back. We've determined what's happened with the shuttle, and likely determine who this person is. So,
Yeah.
I think we should probably head back.
So do we get a copy of the personal logs as well? Then?
Yes,
So
you managed to get enough data out that you can copy the personal logs. Yes.
Okay. Is there a way to
Go on. Sorry. Yes.
either here or back on the ship examine the garbled stuff and possibly
I'm going to
re-examine or
say,
reinvestigate?
due to the complication that was rolled, unfortunately, Tavish created a feedback that fried pretty much everything.
Okay. Cool.
Alrighty.
Wasn't my fault. Stupid bloody nuts.
Well, exactly. It's ancient technology, not up to today's standards.
No, not my fault.
Exactly.
Don't worry, Lieutenant. We all understand that sometimes, in order to succeed, we must set things on fire.
You totally get me, Commander.
What was that, Chris?
Preferably when I'm not anywhere near it.
Look, everything's fine.
Yeah, thankfully no third-degree burns or anything this time.
No,
No,
thankfully.
just a load of
See, success on success. Lily, go ahead and set up the enhancers, and let's get out of here before we become plant food.
Hold on, I've got soot all over me.
Yes, brushing subtle off of yourselves as you exit the shuttle pod. Yes, you're going to have to now set up the pattern enhancers in order to make sure that you can actually beam off the planet again.
That makes me kind of wonder if, like, on all the worlds that the Starfleet have visited, they're like piles of pattern enhancers because they don't take them with them.
Well, no, quite. You would hope that they make them so that they break down afterwards or something. That's a darn good point. Is Starfleet guilty of interplanetary littering?
Yes.
Yes. I like that. Yeah, pretty much.
Do we
Yes.
have to take special action to clear off the moss? Or is that already
That's a good point. You wanted to set the biofilters to make sure that you didn't want to bring the moss with you, and there is going to be a big burst of energy when the pattern enhancers go on and the transporter beam brings you out. So this might be a good point to yes, have another roll from Pleasc. So, if you want to get at Pleasc when his token is not actively here on screen, if you can find your character under the actors area and the folder USS Combs Crew and Ships, you should find Pleasc there, and you can just click on him and bring up his character sheet. So this was going to be control and engineering, yes indeed, to get the pattern fixed, and I'm going to spend a point of threat to make this difficulty 2.
Can I get the ship to help me so I've got parent figure active?
Okay then. Who hasn't rolled in a while? Who hasn't rolled in a while? Basically going to be Obie again, really, isn't it?
Yep, I'm the ship.
You are the ship. That's cool. Right, so this is the pattern enhancers trying to work out things. So this is definitely going to be sensors, and I will go with engineering because it's already there. That makes sense to me. So, Obie, give us a roll.
Would advanced sensor suites apply?
Not really, because that's for reducing the difficulty of any sensor scans, as far as I was last made aware. This is... Actually, you make a point. You make a good point. Advanced sensors would make a difference, because you're actively trying to use the transporter biofilters to make sure it weeds out any small spores of moss. Alright. I will say that yes, they do bring the difficulty down, so I'm going to have to spend an extra point of threat just to bring it back up. So, and you've already got one success there, so it's all down to...
I've also got a check, because this is directly related to my past, in terms of a fear and desperation. Can desperation breeds inspiration allow me to spend determination with the value?
Yes. Good justification, I like it.
Right, so I'll use determination. Do I have to remove the determination from my character sheet now?
Yes, please.
Cool.
There you go.
Still.
So remember, when you roll for control and engineering, you should put the you're going to be using a focus, so check that box. You're going to be using determination, so check that box. And I think the rest is it's gravy.
Complication 1, dice 2.
2 dice for you.
Cool.
And you automatically rolled a 1 because of using determinations. That was 5, 6 successes. My God. So, beam up, definitely successful, Commander. So, you guys are all crowding together, ready to be beamed up, as Lieutenant Pleasc says that he has reconfigured the transporters to have their increased biofilters active, and to try and also compensate for the interference given off by the anomaly. And just as you say that is when I'm going to ask everybody to give me the Star Trek shake, as the ground kind of quakes. Thank you very much. So the ground actually starts to shake as there's some kind of seismic eruption goes on somewhere near to you and makes the ground heave. That's when you get a little communication warning come to you, and you get a communication from the ship in orbit. The call to away team. Report back immediately. Immediately. Event horizon. The gravitational anomaly intensity. Back on board the ship immediately. Away team. Do you read it?
Yes, sir. We're attempting to leave now. We've got the enhancers set up. 7 to beam aboard.
And that's when we give you back to the ship. Right then.
Well, at least we don't have to worry about the pattern enhancers now.
As you come back onto the bridge, and yes, things are not great. There is a horrible metallic groaning from the ship's superstructure, and everybody shakes once again as the ship seems to be in the grip of intense gravitational distortion. The captain yells out, "To your stations!" Now, Bright Future, of course, doesn't really have a station at this point, but he can assist with either security or engineering, so everybody can get back to their duty stations. Essentially, let me see, it's going to be... Essentially, the anomaly appears to be expanding in size, and the ship is starting to have to fight against the gravity being given off by the anomaly. As such, the ship is beginning to lose power. As I also gain...
We need more power, Tavish.
So the intense gravitational forces are beginning to pull your ship out of orbit of the planet.
I'm giving it all I got, Captain. Sorry.
So, there is an enormous strain currently being put on the ship. A combination of gravitational forces coupled with subspace and even temporal distortions. Your ship is just about holding on for the moment, but this is a terrible drain on its power. The power is not going to last forever. So,
I can assist the chief engineer if we need to get more power, but maybe it's time to get out of here.
Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
we can use a plan of action.
what would you like to do? What would you like to suggest then?
Reroute power from non-essential systems to the thrusters, and see if we can do something with the shields to deflect some of the gravitational stuff.
Okey spokes. So, that suggests to me that we're first going to need somebody like operations and or engineering to try and generate more power in order to push it into the thruster system. So, first things first, we're probably looking at Pleasc and Tavish trying to generate a bit of power here. So let's see. Starship position tasks, internal systems. To power management, this is going to be a daring or control and engineering with a difficulty of 2. So, essentially, Tavish and Pleasc can decide... Whoopsie-daisy, didn't mean to do that. Tavish and Pleasc can decide whether or not they think using control or daring is better for this power draw task.
Daring
controls
is my daring's my highest, but it's a 10.
Interesting.
My controls are 12, so
Okay, cool.
I'm at daring's 11, so I'll take the extra one.
Alrighty. So, Pleasc is assisting. Pleasc has got electroplasmic power systems as a focus, so this makes sense for you to use your focus there. Likewise, power systems for Tavish, so you've both got power systems as focuses of some variety. So, daring or control and engineering. Pleasc will be aiding with 1 dice and Tavish with 2, I take it?
I am going to use another determination, actually, if that's alright with you.
Yeah, that's up to you.
Use the value of cooling crisis.
Alright then. Which explains you using control rather than daring, so that fits very nicely. Alright then, so if we want Pleasc to give his daring and engineering check first, rolling 1 dice, unless of course you're buying an extra dice with momentum.
I'm actually...
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I would buy an extra dice for momentum to roll 2. And
Yes.
I've got parental vigor, which I'm going to use as my focus for the roll.
Yes. Okay, nice. So give it a roll. Oh, it was nearly a 1, but you got 2 successes, which is what you want. So now we get Tavish with rolling 2 dice, but also with using your point of determination.
Okay.
Go for it.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
No,
Wait.
I can ignore that complication. We can negate that because I was
Hey!
assisting. So, yes.
So, 4 successes, 6 successes. You can ignore the complication, so that's cool. We needed 2 successes to reroute a point of power. So we've already got, which means we can not only reroute that point of power, we can buy 2 more points of power to be put into the power grid as a result. So you actually free 3 points. How much do you now want to throw into trying to give a boost to the thruster systems? If you can look at the character sheet of the ship, you'll notice power is now at 9 out of 11. So every point of power that you spend on trying to do this additional power to thrusters will add a dice, essentially, to the piloting check.
Do you want to put 3 points of power?
How many points did we get? Or was it 3?
You got 3, so do you want to put all the 3 that you earned into thrusters?
Let's get away from the anomaly. Yes.
All right then.
Put it all
So
in.
I'm quickly going to throw us to the bridge because somebody is going to need to be Lieutenant Commander Lian Zhang, who is the Chief Helm Officer, and somebody is going to need to be the ship. Well, I think we all know who's going to be the ship. Connie or Chris? I think since Chris had a good deal more to do with the last combat encounter, let's do Connie. Can you be Commander Zhang, please?
Yep.
We're going to ask for daring and con from Commander Zhang, with her focus on propulsion systems, more than likely.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually gets to roll 3 dice thanks to the additional power that's being thrown through the... Actually, it would make more sense if the ship gets to roll more dice, because the ship is adding extra power thrown into it. So, forget what I just said. Commander Zhang can roll 2. Her focus applies.
Okay.
Obie, roll as the ship, but you get to roll 2 dice now because of the extra power that was thrown in.
Only 2?
Roll 3 then.
Imagine it's what, engines and con?
Engines and con, please, yes. But the most dice you can roll for a check is 5, so that's as high as we can go. Says 2. That was 4 successes in total. Alright, so there's the audible build-up of power into the engine system as the impulse and thrusters go into overdrive. And the ship, as it's getting ripped away from orbit of Romaldi Tamnos, puts a good bit of juice into itself and starts to stabilize. So it's holding distance for now. Unfortunately, that's also when there's a massive impact against the ship and red alert sounds. Let's see, where is the dealio for... excuse me. Excuse me, as I'm looking for what I'm looking for. There it is. Right. I have to roll 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh. So I got 1, 2, 3, but... Okay, so 3, devastating. So... there's an impact on the... actually... No, you had Bright Future working on trying to protect the ship from the spatial distortion, so the shields would have been up. which is lucky for you because something just detonated against the shields. And shields have lost a point of power, basically. So shields are down by 10%. Somebody on sensors, so this is probably going to be Connie again. So for ease of getting you there, I'm going to throw you back to the bridge. If I could get a reason and science check with assistance from the ship's sensors and science. Obie, I think that's you again, unless somebody else wants to take the ship for a change. I'm gonna take the silence as a no. Okay. So, the difficulty is gonna be 4 for this. So the Combs gets 1 success.
Reason and science.
Reason and science for you. Do you want to buy more dice with momentum?
I think so.
Do you want... Now, you can buy a maximum of 2. Rather than it being just 2 momentum, it's going to cost 3 momentum to buy 2 extra dice so that you can roll 4. Do you want to do that?
I think I'll buy 2 extra dice, yeah.
Everyone alright with that?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take the silence as a cent. So, knock the momentum pool down by a further 3. And Neshlel can roll 4 dice, basically. I am going to allow the statistical probability focus for Neshlel to try and anticipate what might be going on here. Let's see how we do. 3 successes, which means you net 4 successes, which is exactly what you needed. Interesting. Now, where are they? There are, unfortunately, a load of objects floating in space not far from your current position, the ship's current position. Whoopsie-days, I just drugged the planet. Whoops. That didn't happen. But there appear to be a load of powered metallic objects with miniature cloaking fields out in the space between the Combs and the wormhole. You would have to surmise that these are some kind of cloaked mines. And unfortunately, they seem to be activated by the ship's proximity. So, alerting everybody to this, I hope. Pretty rainbow. It is a very pretty planet, I have to say. I did like the image I found for this. Very colourful. Anyway, yes.
Space mines.
Space mines, basically, yes. So, let me just show you the map I'm looking at. So what you're looking at are a set of devices floating in space that are not visible to the naked eye, but since Neshlel was able to use sensors to pinpoint their position, yes, cloaked mines. Unfortunately, like I said, they are being drawn towards you because they appear to be homing mines, and even though the difficulty here is the Combs is holding position because of the gravitational stress. As a larger body in space, the gravitational effect from the wormhole is dragging on the Combs more than it's dragging on the mines. So the Combs is going to have to perform evasive maneuvers whilst static.
All available power to shields.
Are we
So,
able to shoot mines?
ooh, that's a good point. So, what we're going to do is, once again, we are going to give everybody a chance to do some kind of action. Now, Neshlel's already had hers, because she was the one who found the mines. So, if somebody wants to... I mean, Commander Baruva has said all available power to shields. You can pull a point of power from the ship's power pool and add it back to the shields so that you've got full shields again. So if that's what Baruva wants to do.
Is that good? Will that take away from our momentum power?
It won't take away from your momentum pool, it'll take power out of the ship.
I mean, will it take away from our... and make it harder for us to remain static?
It does mean that the ship will have less power with which to hold its position for later, yes. For now, you're holding position, but you're not sure for how much longer the ship's going to be able to hold position.
Okay, he wouldn't want to take... He wouldn't want us to get closer to the anomaly, so actually he'll say, Lieutenant Gerkow, see if you can hold off those mines.
Aye.
So, that would be Baruva issuing a helpful command to Gerkow, so does
Maybe
that
some
mean...
advisor.
Yes, I was going to say. So Baruva can use presence and command to assist, with Gerkow using control and security to try and shoot at one of the mines.
Team dynamics, maybe?
Yes. This will take a point of power from the ship since you're using ship's weapons.
Okay, I don't need to use focus or anything like that, do I?
You've got shipboard tactical systems, so you can use focus, yes.
Okay. Hey, 2 dice? Or
2 dice, please. Since you're the one firing the phasers. Alrighty, those are all extremely good rolls. So, where's the ship? Where's the ship? Where's the ship? Indeedy. I just generated a load of errors there. So, yes. You managed to mark bearings and target. So, Chris, if you can find the character sheet for the ship. USS Combs crew and ships. Then the subfolder ships. You want to find the phaser arrays weapon. Click on the dice.
Phaser arrays, yeah. Phaser arrays, look. I can get it out.
Here we are. 1 effect, which means you got technically a second shot. 9 successes. The mines have... Right. Ba-boom! That's 1 mine gone. So there's a small explosion in space as one of the mines disappears. 2 remaining. Now, does Tavish want to take any kind of action? Tavish can maybe try and bring the shields back up, or try and generate more power again.
I should try and generate some more power.
Okie dokie day. So, this comes under, I think I'm giving it all she's got, so whenever someone attempts a task with power requirement aboard your ship while you were aboard, roll a challenge dice on an effect, reduce the power requirement by 1. I will allow that to also means that if you roll a dice and roll an effect, you'll generate an extra point of power. So, this is once again going to be control and engineering, difficulty 2, for you to generate a point of power.
Is this perform task? Yeah.
This is perform task, yes please. No help from the ship, I'm afraid.
Using focus, power systems.
Power systems, yes, absolutely.
Okie dokie. I'm not getting roll of value. because I don't know if I'm sure if I get them back yet. So
Let's just see how we do. Two successes, which means on the money. So roll me a d6. So down at the bottom, underneath where you can type /R and stuff, there's actually dice shapes. If you press the square one, yep, you know what to do. Cool. So you didn't roll an effect, so you didn't generate an extra point of power, I'm afraid, but you did regain the power spent from actually firing the phasers. So there's that. Pleasc would probably be a good one to go now. Pleasc with his internal systems can either try and maybe try and regenerate the shields a bit.
Yep.
To do this is another internal systems jobby, which means we require control and engineering, difficulty 1, assisted by the ship's structure and engineering. Obie, let's have you be the ship as per usual.
Cool. Because I've got assistance, that's parent figure talent.
Yep, awesome sauce.
You said systems and sensors and engineering.
Structure and engineering, please.
Cool. Rolling 2 dice.
Okay, yes, please. 1 success, so anything that Pleasc generates is gravy on the boat.
What about are we doing hull integrity?
Let's see what we get. 3 successes. So you generate more than was necessary, so you can get 2 back to your momentum pool, and Combs regains the point of shields that it lost. Structural integrity at the moment is holding, but you can definitely hear the strain on the ship with the sound of metal groaning. We are going to require a con task by our helm officer to try and avoid contact with the next couple of mines. So Connie, since you did so well as Commander Zhang, you can jump in here.
Mind the mines, Jang.
Obie, once again, if you can be the ship, we're going to need engines and con for this. Evasive action will cost another point of power for the ship. So if you hadn't have regained that point of power, you'd have even less power to do evasive maneuvers and firing phasers with. Oh, that's a good one. The ship is responding. So if we can, Connie, if you can give us another daring and con task from Lieutenant Commander Zhang.
And focus? No,
And her focus on propulsion systems, yes please. Very good, very good, very good. So we needed 2, you got 1 over. 1 goes back in the momentum pool. So that's the Romulan mines avoided for now. So the situation you find yourselves in is that your ship is gradually losing power as the wormhole's gravitational pull exerts an effort on the ship to remain at its current position. The 2 remaining mines are still a problem. But just as all this is going on, Lieutenant Pleasc and Lieutenant Gerkow get a momentary computer alert telling you that sensors have just made a reading that there is a ship. Apparently, now that you're closer to the wormhole, and the wormhole itself is now larger and wider, you can see sensors are detecting there is another ship inside the wormhole's event horizon. It's an NX class vessel with the signifier
Probes.
the Atlantis. The Atlantis is there, still there, in the middle of the wormhole. And that's where we're going to leave it for tonight.
Oh,
today,
no.
I should say. We'll have to find out what happens next week. So, plenty of things for the crew to be addressing. You're going to have to somehow deal with the fact that the Atlantis... You've now sighted the Atlantis. Go on, sorry.
We need to reach out to Cisco so that he can talk to the prophets and maybe they can help.
Maybe. But is this the same type of wormhole? Because this one seems to be pretty unstable and pretty aggressive. So there is an object at the center of this wormhole generating all of that. Thank you for watching, Suitable Substrate. Yes, so we've got plenty to go on. There's an object at the center of this wormhole that appears to be the reason of the gravitational and tachyon anomalies. But also within the wormhole is the Atlantis, a ship from 210 years ago. The Combs itself is currently caught in the gravitational field and is fighting against it to stop being drawn in. And this is going to be a gradual drain on the power, but there's also the mines to deal with. Cloaked mines, which suggests they might be maybe Romulan mines? So, what will happen? Will the Combs' crew escape? What's going to go on with the Atlantis? Are they going to be able to get rid of the mines? We're going to have to find out next week, I'm afraid. So thank you very much to everybody who was watching the stream. Thank you to the intrepid crew for doing it. Excellent music and sound effects. Well, you get to thank Ben Looms and the guys at Sirenscape for that. They're the guys who provide the ambient sound that I use. Obviously, I've also gotten Star Trek sound effects from trekcore.com, I believe. Yep. So I can't claim all the credit there either. But those are the tools we use to give us a darned good time. So hopefully everybody enjoyed that. I will speak to my players once I stop streaming just so I can give them a little appraisal, but we should be back next week, same time, and we'll see what manages who can get out of this one. Chris, I believe you're not here next week.
I'm right, not, nope.
But we will have Dr. Sott joining us next week instead, so...
I won't be here next week either.
You won't be here next week either, so this becomes an issue. Do you want us to postpone with two of you missing?
3 of
or
us. I'm actually in a different country as well.
all 3 of you gone. Then we can't do this next week. We have to postpone for a week. So with half the player base down, yeah, we have to postpone. So we're gonna have to wait 2 whole weeks to find out what happens next. Oh no! So, put it in your diaries, folks. 2 weeks' time, we'll find out what happens next. So, yes. Thank you for watching, everybody. Look after yourselves. Treat everybody fairly. Remember to practice infinite diversity in infinite combinations, just like the Vulcans say. And just like the Vulcans say, I will ask you all to live long and prosper as we close our hailing frequencies.